the early before, what we didn't reconfirm it. I just want to make sure that it's all good.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I guess we can get
But the recording, yeah, okay,
then.
will be accessible to the participants only after the workshop is finished. So.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. So hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the Prototyping in Figma 101, where apparently we're encountering some technical difficulties, but hopefully it'll be all okay. Thanos still trying to get into the file, so we'll see if that'll be a problem. But good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know we said good morning, but we know it's the afternoon for most of us right now. And I'll hand it off to Thano.
Yeah, so I guess a brief introduction. So hi everyone, my name's Thano, like Thanos in the Avengers. So my design background is I'm from York University and like Sheridan College Joint Design Program, which is like in the GTA area of Ontario. Previously I worked at like Facebook as like a product design intern, and right now I'm working full-time at a product studio called Daybreak, where we work for like early stage startups in the social space.
Yeah, and for me, I am also a product designer. I studied at Sheridan Interaction Design, and that's where Thano and I met and actually became friends. Previously, I worked at RBC, Microsoft, and currently I work at Facebook as a product designer in the ads and business products. But even before I wanted to become a designer, I was actually studying business school for a little bit before I decided that that was enough of that. And I wanted to try and be a creative problem solver. So yeah, now I'm currently designing for ads and business products, which is what I originally want to do, but the tools that they actually use in their day-to-day. So let's jump into it. Today, when we're going to be going through some basics for Figma and just trying to get you guys started with not just like how to use the tools, but how you can get inspiration as well as get the resources and assets that you need to actually start building within Figma. So we'll be covering different types of resources and providing a list of them in our Discord as well, and covering some shortcuts as well as how to create components and things like that when you're working in your teams and hacking away at your app.
Oh, so yeah, something I also want to stress before we get started is just in case everyone hasn't done so already, if you want to collaborate with others and not being on a paid plan, you have to make sure to sign up for the student account. So if you haven't already, make sure to do that. And I'll drop a link in the Discord just in case you haven't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it would also be a really great idea to have your own Figma open just so that you could follow along. It doesn't have to be the file that we have attached to the handbook, but even just like a blank and empty Figma, just so that you guys can follow along with the shortcuts and components and trying to simulate like what we're doing. That would be really amazing. I don't know if there's like a way that we can confirm that the people are doing that, but
yeah, I think it should be okay to go through.
Okay, so first I'm going to walk you through a little bit of Figma. So one of the main things that you'll find is, so first we have like this left, you'll notice that it's like a 3-panel type of design. So on the left, we have layers, assets, pages, and presentation. And what the heck do all these components mean, right? So when we're on the layers page, what it's really talking about is like this bottom section right here. So you can see when we first get into it, you can click around, and maybe I should start with like an empty one. But
oh, Figma might not let you make a new document. You could try creating like a new page. That might work.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just create a blank page. So yeah, when I click the plus button here, you'll notice that it says add new page. So that's what I'm going to go ahead right now. And by default, it should have like something like page 7 here. But what you'll notice is that right now on this layer section, I have absolutely nothing here. And what you'll want to do in order to access those layers is you'll want to create something called an artboard or a frame in Figma. And you can see here now on the right-hand side, that's when we start using this space. So this is actually like the creation space versus like this is seeing like the high level view. And we can see here that Figma offers actually quite a really great amount of like different types of frames to start with. So let's go with Android since we're designing in material today, right, Thano?
Yeah, yeah.
And you can see here, we have all the specs laid out. So things that might be really obvious to you, where it's located on the X and Y axes. And then here we have width and height. So they have it default set for you whenever you're going through the frame. So you never have to like think about that or anything like that. And clip content is on by default. We can get into that later. You don't have to worry about it, but the rest of these are kind of more advanced, and we'll talk about them in more detail when we're actually going through the deconstruction phase. But basically the things that you'll want to worry about the most are probably like your layers, your pages. So for example, while right now we have like different pages in here, and sometimes you might want a cover page, it getting started. And this is just from the material design baseline design kit that you can get started with. But let's say you're on a team, you want to get started with on Figma together. I'm not sure how much Clara was able to cover for this, but some of the ways that Thano and I have personally loved going through Figma and collaborating together is by actually just creating like a brainstorming sheet, which is like super messy usually and full of like little notes and like emojis and voting that we do. And then we actually have like a draft page afterwards where we're just like getting started with our ideas, and then a polished and refined page. So maybe that's something that teams might want to consider when you're going through and creating your apps. And I just want to get started. That was like basically a plug into the segue of plugins and how they will be your best friend in Figma. So I already have a couple of plugins installed, but what I want you to do is when you go to like this hamburger menu on here and you go to the plugins menu, then you hover over and you can browse plugins and community. This will literally be your best friend. And I just want to like help walk through how you would probably use this. So there's like a couple of different options here. You have explore, feed, design systems, wireframes, illustrations, icons, like literally everything. And what you can do is depending on your product's needs, you can go ahead and like search for whatever you think that you might need and look into like the details. So for example, let's look at Unsplash, which is something that I use on the daily. So when I clicked on the plugin, it brings me to this beautiful page, and that it's a community plugin. So it tells me what I can do. So here it says I can insert images from Unsplash right into my design. So this is really great for when you know you want to have like a dummy image somewhere in your app, but you don't know where to get it. What I would do if I want to create it is hit install here. Now it's telling me that plugin's installed. And what I can do is I can go back to my blank page. And let's say I want to insert something here. And this is just showing you how to use plugins, but you can go to Unsplash, hover over it and click it in the document. And then this little window will pop up. And what's really awesome is that now I can insert anything that I want. So let's say like I'm looking for people because you're creating a profile picture or something. So I can literally just, oops.
I'm back in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I can literally, yeah, you can see here, it filled the image. So what you want to do is not do that, but Thano can go into this in more detail. But what you can do when we get into more detail about these plugins is you can utilize them, and they're really, really powerful for getting you started quickly with any type of designs that you possibly want to do. Because I think my top tip for anyone starting with any type of prototyping is it's really, really hard to get started with your own images and colors and text. Sometimes you don't want to think about that when you're quickly prototyping things. So these plugins are going to be your best friend, and you might want to look into things like UI kits just to get started and looking at a design system so that when you have like a fully assembled app with all your teammates, it's looking at least like kind of uniform, and you don't have to think about that from scratch.
I think a cool thing to do is click on the Files tab next to plugins.
Mhm.
Wait, scroll down where it says all files and plugins.
Oh.
I know the UX is a little confusing
Oh.
on Figma. But a cool thing is like anyone from the Figma community, like me, Christina, even all of you, can create designs and then publish them here, and then people can reuse them. So these are like all like designs and kits people have made, which you can just go and download and use for yourself, which is like super helpful for getting started because you don't have to do all that like legwork into creating like these design systems.
Yeah, like that's a really good call out. Like for example, if I was in this sprint, I would probably use this lo-fi wireframe kit just so that I don't have to create the components myself, and just like try and communicate the idea as best as I can, or and then like go in with like something that's more higher fidelity later on. So really great call out. And there's also like built-in icons too, so definitely look into those. And like the filters here are really great for finding all of that natively in Figma.
I think yeah, and something for our presentation is we're going to be using the basically Google has their own design system and Apple has their own. Google's is called material design. Apple's is called human interface. So we are using Google's material design system because it's very well documented, and also they share it with Google. The Google team actually shares it inside Figma, so you can find it if you search for it or use the link we provided. So yeah, Christina, I'll show you how to do that.
Yeah, so yeah, you can literally just like type in the very top material design and a bunch of things will show up. So we're using this one. Has a material baseline design kit, and you literally just duplicate it and you will get the exact same file that Thano and I have, apart from the slides and the little app at the very bottom.
Yeah, so I guess now would be a good time to, I guess, get into it.
Oh wait, do we want to share the I guess we can share the resources at the end.
At the end, I think, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I will pass it to Thano, and I'll observe him.
Okay, are you following me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So here's like basically a few frame. To get started, we kind of like created this small little like very quick like little app onboarding sequence. So basically, let's just say you want to make a reading app for kids, right? Basically you have a small little onboarding. So basically like when people are first getting started using the app, it's that initial sequence. So let's just say there's a app for both parents and kids. So you're asking someone if they're a parent or child. You ask them for their name, and then you have a basically dashboard for them to continue their learning with reading. So basically we're going to show you how we kind of like created this, and then kind of like how you can prototype this so you can like present this. So to get started, I guess they can't really see when I choose an artboard, right? Yeah, but basically I press A on my keyboard to open up the artboard hotkey, or you can
Do
hit
you
the
want
top
me to
left.
do you want to switch and use screen share for this bit, since we're on Zoom and not Discord?
Yeah, sure. Give me a second.
So we're gonna switch over.
Yeah.
Here.
Give me 2 seconds. There we go. You can see it.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I press A on my keyboard, or you can hit the top left, this little frame icon to open up the frame. So I'm going to start off with an Android frame since we're working with Android, which is like owned by Google, using Google's material design system. So I'm going to start off by making a button. So a quick way to do that is you press this rectangle key in the top left, and that will give you a rectangle tool. So you can just like drag it and create a rectangle. If you want other shapes like circles and stuff, you can hit this little arrow to the right of it, take like the ellipse tool, and then create a circle. Something you kind of see is like, you know, when I'm making my circle, it's kind of lopsided. So I'm going to go back to the circle tool, take it again, but this time I'm going to hold shift. And what shift will do is it'll actually scale it even on both sides. So I can like move my mouse all around and it will make sure it's a perfect circle all the time. So back to the rectangle tool. I'm going to take the rectangle tool up here, create a rectangle. Something, maybe this is a little advanced, but I'll say it anyways. When you're designing, a good thing like we do at like big companies like Shopify and Facebook is we kind of like have our own design system. We kind of like space things in like a system like manner. So what I'm trying to say and like fumbling is basically when I design, I make sure to always design in units of 8 so everything works together well. So like on the sides of the device, I use 16 pixels. And then on the bottom, I use 32, which are all like divisible like by 8, just so everything like works together well. And I also do that with like type. So I'm going to hit the text tool here, and clicking here will allow me to type. So I'm going to type continue. And then going in that manner on the top, on the right side, you can see like my text size, which is 24. That's like a thing of 8. So I'm going to keep it there. So I'm going to put that on there. It's actually a little big, so I'm going to make it 16. So -8. Put that in the center there. And then if I click the rectangle on the right here, I have fill, which is kind of like the color. So I can click that. Actually, I can also click these 4 little dots here, and this will give me the material design colors that are in this document. So I'm just going to do that to keep things consistent. So I'll choose that purple, and I can't really see the what's it called? The contrast between like the continue button and the the actual button color itself. So something I'm going to do is I'm going to make this lighter so people can see it more. So I'm just going to hit this color and make it white.
I also want to add, like, when you're working in layers, like what Thano did, sometimes it can be really hard to specifically select the layer that you want. So a pro tip is you can hold Command and actually like click on the layer that you actually want to work on, or the asset that you want to touch.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. When it comes to like file management, it's also sometimes like, if let me go up here, for example, if you want to move this button, you don't want to just move like the continue text. You want to move the whole entire button. So like right here, you see if I try and move it, it's not dragging the continue text. So something you can do is I can hold and drag both of these, right click and hit group selection, and that'll create a group. So now they're working together. But let's say I want to move, yeah, like Christina was saying, like maybe just like the button up a little bit, but I don't want to move the text. On Mac, you press Command, or sorry, on Mac, you hold Command. On Windows, you hold Control, and you can just left click and move that up, which is awesome. So now I'm gonna work towards creating like these rectangles up here. And something you can do is if you're on this material design sheet, with this, we actually constructed this using all the material design components that were in this document. So if you go to the sticker sheet here, you can actually find like all the stuff we built this with. So for instance, I'll take a button here. It's like this enabled button here. So I'm just gonna click it. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna hit copy. Or actually, I'm gonna hit Control C on my keyboard because it's a little easier. That's like the hotkey for copying. I'm gonna go back to app and then Control V to paste. And then, so now I have this button here. And now I can just like Christina was saying, I wanna hit this text here. So I'm gonna hit Control and double click. And then I can change this to continue. And I have my button, which doesn't really fit. But yeah, and then I can make it longer so it fits. So that's like an easy way to kind of like get started with stuff. If you don't want to, if you're having trouble kind of making like these very like, if you want to make a nice looking button and you're having trouble, like you can always just go to like these sticker sheets or the Figma community and use these like pre-made assets that like already exist. So here, let me go back here. So I'm just gonna create 2 simple rectangles here. If you see here, I've kind of like added like a drop shadow here to separate like the background, like the card from the background. The way you kind of do this is I'll do this here. So I'm gonna make these both white. So these are kind of invisible. They're really hard to see. If you want to add a shadow, the way you do it is you hit the effects here and you hit the plus. That will create a drop shadow. And then you have like some granular controls if you hit this little sun icon here. So so these are the X and the Y are basically the direction the shadow is moving. So X is the kind of like horizontal and Y is the vertical. So I can switch this up and the shadow will be reversed if I put 4 and 0 and reverse them like that. Something I had here is the shadow even on all sides. So I'm gonna actually make it 0. So if the shadow is like equal around all sides. And I feel like it's a little harsh, like it's not spreading out enough. So I'm gonna take my shadows and I'm gonna increase the blur to 16. Actually, let's do 12. 16 is a little too much. And then I can also round these by selecting them. And the top right, there's this little curve icon. And something, if you're unsure of like what things in Figma are, is if you hover over the icon for a second, it'll actually give you a little like toast hint saying what that tool is. So here it says corner radius. So I can just drag this and bring it to, or I can type it. I'm going to type 16. Let's do 12. Now, something I also had here is kind of like these images inside the cart. And the way you can do that is, first I'm just going to make a rectangle here. I'm going to copy this rectangle. Another way you can copy is if you take this rectangle and hit Control D or Command D, it'll actually create a copy of it, like exactly on it. And now I'm going to use one of the plugins. So I'm going to take the Unsplash plugin. It's okay if you don't have this plugin. You can literally just go like anywhere on Google and, just copy an image. But this makes it easier to get like Unsplash is like free licensed stock photos, so you can use them like in your work. So I'm going to just hit the abstract button, and it's just going to give me this random abstract photo. So I'm just going to resize this. So I'm going to hold Shift to scale it down, and then I'll drag it here. So this is kind of like, I guess, a little bit of an advanced feature. I'm going to hold this rectangle or this image, hold this background rectangle. And if I right click and hit use as mask, it'll actually put the image inside of the rectangle. So now if I move this, it kind of like moves this whole container. But if I just want to move this image because, it's not filling this entire rectangle. So what I'm going to do is, like Christina said, I'm going to hold Command or Control on Windows, click it, and then I can actually move that here. And then I just want to copy this too. So I'm going to hit Control D to copy it, and then I'll move that over here. And then I also want to add a title to this. So I'm going to add a title, hit the text tool. A shortcut for that is also hitting T on your keyboard. And I'm going to write, is your parent / guardian using this app? Cool. I'll close this. Another cool thing I think Christina showed earlier, which was super helpful. Here, let me just change this. Is kind of like the plugins. So like for this tab bar over here, the tab bar is kind of like the name for the navigation bar, like where you navigate on apps. We kind of have like these icons here. If you want to kind of like recreate something like this, an easy way to do it is go into right-click plugins and then click the material design icons. And these are all of like Google's icons they use for like their apps. So I can type like home, and I'll get the exact home icon they use. So I can click that, and it'll just drop it in my document, and I can just drag it and then check it here. I could try writing profile, or I guess user is the right term, or person. There we go. Okay, person is the right term. And then I can have this icon here and check it over there. But going back here. So I have kind of like this very, very, very basic, text. So something I want to do is I kind of want to create two states here, because like you want to create a state where someone can click this and move on to the next sequence of the app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my artboard, hit Control C, and Control V to copy and paste. Something I want to do is if they're on the previous state, I don't want to let them, continue to the next part if they haven't selected anything. So a good way to do that is kind of like create a different state. So here, if a button's deselected, it could be like 50% opacity or even like a different color. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to 50% opacity. So it looks like you can't click the button. And then on the other side, I kind of want to make it look like if a user's click that card, it gives them kind of like feedback that it's selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the card, hit stroke, and this will create a stroke around the card. And then I'm just going to take this, hit this color picker here, and I can get this exact same color that was over there. And I also feel like the stroke is a little too small, so I'm going to click the card again. And over here, I can actually increase the amount of stroke. So I'm going to add 3. Now, this kind of like brings me into like prototyping, which is like something I wanted to show. So a way you can prototype is in the top right corner, there's like a prototype button here you can click. And this is kind of like your prototyping interface. Here, Christina, I know I've been talking for a while. You want to show them how to prototype?
Yeah, sure. Can we? The only thing is we probably have to switch back.
Oh, if you screen share, it'll automatically boot me off. So yeah, just
Okay.
do it with the screen share. Yeah.
Okay, give me a second.
I know it kind of sucks when you're remote and we're like on 2 separate computers, so we can't like, yeah, go in between very.
Okay, so I'll share the prototyping. And then one other thing I want to share is like while Thano is like going through it, one other thing I really like to do during any type of like hackathon or sprint is if Thano and I are on the same team, I would like to go like he can create like the mocks and then I'll just go and change all the assets and things just because I know from like we know from experience that those are really tedious to do. So one person can just wireframe and the other person can just polish as you're going along with it. But hopping into prototyping. So what we want to do is we want to signal a state in this type of instance. There's also like more advanced ways to do that, but just for the sake of like getting started really quickly with something and we're not concerned with best practices or anything like that, this is the most foolproof and easy way to move from different states within Figma. And we'll share resources for more advanced things too. But like, let's say I want to reflect that the user needs to select this right card in order to go here. So what I would do is I would select this group and I would have to make sure it's grouped too. So the way that I can make sure is on the left-hand side, I see that it says rectangle 360, but it's separated from the mask group. So what I want to do is make sure that my components are grouped properly. So making sure I'm in the design tab when I'm doing that too, just in case I need the controls from the design tab. So I'm going to group things properly and let's call this button 1. And this one, let's call it button 2. And this group, we'll call it continue button. This is probably not the best naming convention, but you know, use your best judgment when you're creating your layers. You probably want to use something a little bit better. But let's say we're going into prototype. So when the user is clicking button 2 and we want them to reflect this type of state, what we'll do is we'll just do this. And what I did is I literally just clicked and dragged this arrow to the next screen. And you can see this little window popping up. So it says on click. And when I see on click here, I see a bunch of different actions that you could possibly take. And this is just giving me options for picking what happens when I do a certain action. So we have on click, on drag, while hovering. I see someone raise their hand. Is this when a facilitator jumps in, or are we taking, because we're not taking active questions right now?
Yeah, oh, I was gonna say we have like a question period afterwards, like in 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, just hold it till then we can help you out.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so I'll just quickly go through this, but what we'll see like a bunch of different things that are happening here. Usually if you're on mobile, you want to click or stay on this like top half, because on the bottom half you'll notice that it says mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse down, mouse up, which isn't used in mobile design. So we want to avoid things like that, but on click is sufficient for this. And then we have navigate to. So here on the bottom left, it's like, okay, I have the click destination, but or the trigger. So what's next? Do we want to navigate to something, open an overlay, scroll to, or swap overlay? So we have like a bunch of these different options here. But what we want to do is we want to go to navigate to Android 3. And you can also name your artboards too. So let's call this default state. And we can call this one selected state, just to make it easy to follow along. So when I click, what you'll also notice is that I'm able to just click on the arrows when I'm in prototyping mode and open like this little window again. So let's say I want to navigate to the selected state. I can then go into animations, and there's like a couple of different options. So we have instant, dissolve, move in, move out, push, slide in, slide out. And then we have smart animate, which is can be kind of tricky. But that we'll share a video for extra resources for how to use Smart Animate properly. But let's say we want to just do dissolve. So what you'll notice is that once I click dissolve, this little window shows up and it's showing me what that animation looks like. So it's going from A to B and it's doing it at the same point. Whereas like, let's say I'm choosing something like slide in, slide out, it's showing me like a preview of what those animations look like. So really helpful from Figma for being able to provide those. But let's just say we want to do that. So now when I set up my animation, I can go to the play button. And when I click oh, okay, which is usually on your first artboard, is on the right screen that you want to preview. So I'm going to drag it and like literally attach it to this part here. And I'm going to try and preview this, hopefully.
Yeah. But basically, if this doesn't work,
Yeah.
what it does is it creates like an interactable prototype with like hotspots. So you can like click on the button and it'll actually bring you to the next page. Oh,
yeah.
You got it.
Okay, so we can see here, we got like our little screen here and you got, you have like a little couple of options as well if you want on the right. And you can see here as well, instead of like flipping through the different prototypes, I can also go back and forth between the two screens, but I don't want to do that here. What I do want to do is I want to click it and oh, wow, voila. Like now we have like this working app and it almost feels real. So this is like as good as it gets in high fidelity prototyping within Figma, unless you want to go and do some advanced animations. But again, we'll provide like resources for that later on. But you can see here, it looks and feels quite real. So one other cool thing you can do with Figma is you can actually preview this on your phone. So if you want to see what it would look like in your hand, there's actually an app that will help you do that. I think it's like Figma Mirror.
Yeah, so I use this like all the time, like when I design, because I think it's always good to see, like, especially when you're designing for a phone, because you keep zooming in and out in Figma. You don't have like a really good sense of kind of like scale. So I usually like when I'm working, I have the Figma Mirror app on my phone right next to me, so I can kind of see how it looks like on an actual phone. And it's also kind of good because like the hotspots and everything works. So like if you're doing like, I remember like doing hackathons before. And when I was like pitching the product, I'd like, hand them the phone for them to try and they'd actually interact with it. Like it was a real app. So that was definitely added like a higher sense of fidelity to the experience.
Yeah, like highly recommend it. And like your friends or like your teammates can leave comments on the prototype too. So I can be like, oh, the spacing is off. And share that with Thanos and then he can but I can collaborate with him in real time. So let's say you're working with your, and this is like what makes Figma so amazing is like the collaboration features, but he can literally reply to me and then I could copy the link to this comment and share it with him just so he knows what I'm pointing at to save time and do asynchronous communication. But let's say he fixed it, I can click resolve and it'll be gone. But you can leave comments and critique your friends or your teammates app really easily in Figma, which makes this like such an amazing tool for a sprint like this. I'm trying to go back, but yeah, now we can go ahead and also like, let's say they click continue. I want to navigate to this screen. So again, I just do the exact same thing, but let's say instead of dissolve, we want to do slide in. So I want this screen to slide in when I change from that state. What does that look like in Figma? So what I have to do is I probably have to close this again, just so that it loads like that new animation. And then I click play and we can see, so I have this state and then now I'm moving into the next screen. So this is a really great way to like daisy chain your screens together and really get like a flow and make your app like feel real when you're going into it. And I feel like those are the basics. Did I miss anything, Daniel? For the
Not really. Like, I think the only kind of thing is kind of like, if you're working kind of like, this is kind of like an edge case, but if you're kind of like working with like developers and stuff, and you kind of, or like you want to kind of like, let's say you're designing like a website and you want to, code it. You can kind of like go into the inspect tab. Wait, can you do that, Christine? Yeah. And from here, you can actually see like all the like CSS values if you're working kind of like with an engineer, like a web developer, even if you know how to like code yourself. And then you can go back to the design tab to get back into your design tools.
Yeah, this is really great, especially for CSS. So you can literally see like what all the CSS will be, and your developer will be able to pull it.
Your developer will love you.
Yeah, they'll love you for this. Although
then,
I like, yeah, so, and they also have like a CSS thing here. So CSS, iOS, and Android, they have all the code here. It might be a little bit janky depending on how you grouped your components, but for the most part, it should work pretty well.
and
And
then oh yeah, the resources.
Oh yeah, yes. We'll share the resources. I just want to also share, like, let's say where you have to have nothing selected in order to see this prototyping state, but let's say you wanted to select like an Android device as your thing. So do you remember what size our screens are?
It's 360 by 640.
Okay, but like, let's say I want to have like a device on it. So that's the Google Nexus 5X. When I go back into prototyping, I'll actually be able to see the phone around it just to simulate like what it would look like in an app rather than that blank rectangle from before. And then I can, if you don't want to use like this triangle thing to select which screen you want to test the prototype for, you can also click starting frame here. And this is why I also suggest naming your artboard so you don't get lost in naming hell. And you're actually able to choose like the screen or the screen that you want to prototype with. So naming is very important, especially when you're working with teams, although it might not matter as much when you're working in such a fast-paced way.
And it looks like we're kind of running out of time. So for the resources, I'm just going to drop them in the Discord channel for the prototyping so you guys can explore them. But basically, it's just like a bunch of tools for like learning more about Figma, getting design inspiration, kind of like tools that'll help you like work more effectively when you're trying to work in like a sprint environment. Yeah.
Yeah, and Thano, do you want to share your screen and kind of go over the resources really quickly?
Yeah, sure. Give me 2 seconds. Where's the screen share button? Got it. So you guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll make sure I'll share these in the Discord right after we're done. So don't worry if you're trying to like get the link. So this is the first website. It's called like Design Notes. I really love it because it's got like so many tools for you. Let's say you're trying to get a font, you want a different font, or you want like placeholder like icons or illustrations. It's just basically a huge hub for like literally anything you need. So like these are all like design inspiration sites. Here you have like icons and illustrations that you can use in your work, and even like illustrations, like if you want to throw out illustrations in. So a website I also really like from here is called like Mobin. So I'm just gonna open this up, and Mobin is kind of like it's kind of funny. Like basically what they do is they just go and they go through like all these apps, popular apps on the App Store, and they screenshot every single screen of that flow, which sounds painful for them, but it's good for us. Because here's like a lift app, you can see like literally every screen. So a really cool thing about this is, let's say you're working on a finance app. You click the categories here, and then I can go to the finance category, and it'll show me like all of these apps that are in finance. So then I can go into them and search for inspiration. Another really good thing is if I'm stuck in a design problem and I'm trying to make, let's say, a sign up. I have no idea how a sign up works. I can hit this pattern up here tab. I can hit filter by patterns, and I can actually see here, there's a sign up category. They've got like signups, setups, logins, everything you can think of, like calendar. So I'm going to do signups. And there's a bunch of signups for all these different apps, which is super, super good. And then there's also a third option, which is like filter by elements. So like if I'm creating a navigation bar and I'm not sure how it should work, I can click that, hit the nav bar, and then it'll show me a bunch of nav bars. So like these little bars at the bottom here. Or I can do like other stuff. Like this is a button. How's this? It'll show me different types of buttons. So yeah, that's a good one. Also for icons, if you're kind of like, maybe not for this, but if you're kind of working in a environment like a startup or a business and you're trying to create you want to use icons, a lot of them you have to pay for, you need a license for. A good free open source one is called like Iconify. And you can just literally search for any icon and it brings together like all these open source icons from all these different kits here. So I can basically like, if I want this profile icon, I can click this, hit SVG, download, and I can just drag and drop it into Figma like that. So that was like super, super fast. But we also have some other resources, and I'll put those on the Discord after. But yeah. So I guess now would be, I guess, a good time for questions.
Yeah, we will open it up in case you want to have some more advanced knowledge about how to use like do advanced spacing or anything like that, or implement your own textiles and libraries in Figma. But for a sprint, Daniel and I highly suggest using a design kit so you don't have to think about any of those like cognitive things, and that your app just looks really good out of the box. If there's no questions, we can go into like something more advanced like auto layout too.
Oh yeah, Stanley, you can ask questions.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead and ask.
Okay. It goes back to what Dana was talking about. I think the site was called Mobin, where it had like Lyft, Uber, and all those companies and their pages. Are those sites just to show you what the design looks like, or could you actually add them into your Figma page?
It's basically what the design looks like, but sometimes when I'm working, a good way to like collect inspo is you can just screenshot and start dropping screenshots in Figma. So that's what I do. So like if I'm like, working on a sign up flow, I might go through Lyft, I might go through Uber, screenshot a couple of those ones I really like, throw them into Figma while I'm working. So I can kind of like reference like, yeah.
Yeah, so like if you're trying to like just work off of something or just get inspiration from one of those flows, like literally just hit the image tool in Figma and like import all of those images into your Figma file, and you can literally look at them for inspiration or copy them, whatever you want to do, and just like look at them for your basics.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Oh yeah, I see a hand up. You can speak.
I'm sorry, this is a bit of a stupid question. How do I open the plugins in Figma again? Like once we have
No,
it.
that's totally fine.
I'm so
Here,
sorry, I
I'll
missed that
screenshot.
little part.
No, I know it's like really confusing because like
Yeah, it's super
Figma is a design tool, but it doesn't have the best user experience.
Yeah, the plugin experience the plugin experience from Sketch was a lot better than Figma.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to do it. So the first way to do it is you hit this hamburger menu here. Then you can kind of scroll down to plugins, and then scroll down here and then browse plugins in the community. And here I can like screenshot this and throw in the Discord if that's helpful. Here, let me do that though. I'm getting there. And then here's kind of like the hub. And here you can just kind of like scroll for popular plugins, or you can search for them. And another way you can do this, like let's say if I leave this document, right? I'll go back to my Figma dashboard. I can go to the community tab up in the top left, hit that, and it'll bring me to the same place. So those are like two different ways to access it.
You can also right click in your file and access plugins from there too.
Yeah.
And the one annoying thing about Figma is that you have to keep running it every time you use it and click it. So the right click will probably be the fastest way to access your plugins as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry for your question again.
No, it's fine. No worries.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Like I have trouble going to the Figma community. Like I have no idea. Like, okay, if I go here, like just navigating this is just so confusing because I'm like,
It
where's the
is,
search
yeah.
bar? And the search bar is like so tiny, like in
All
the
the
top.
way at the top, right? Yeah.
Yeah, which makes zero sense, but
It
it's
should be
just
beside like explore.
down here or something
feed, or-
larger.
Yeah, like somewhere that's not above.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we have a little bit of time. Maybe we can go into like auto layout and textiles really quickly.
Yeah, sure. Here, you want to share your screen, Krista?
Sure, I'll go ahead and do that. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's say you're like looking at this and one of your teammates just threw in some text and some pictures, and you're like, oh, it doesn't look like how I want it to look. Like I want the spacing between everything to be perfect. How do I do that? So what I would do is I will go ahead and select the components I want. So one other thing I can do is I have a floating text layer that you can see here. But what I like to do is I like to group my text layers. So let's say we call this like headline or something like that. And then what I do know is that I want the spacing between these three components to be correct. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that these ones are grouped as well. So I'll call this button group. And then we have like this continue button. So I have three things on my thing right now. So what I like to do in order to keep it very perfect is I'll group all of them. And then I have like this thing called auto layout. So what does auto layout do? Auto layout basically helps create a grid within your pattern that you can see here. So it creates a frame, which is really confusing. So let's call this
Also, another way to like approach this is if you come from like a web development background or, you know, kind of like basically HTML or CSS, it's basically like a visual version of CSS.
Yeah, it's like a visual way of like doing divs. Like just imagine like it like your blocks of code of like just wrapping things very neatly. If you're able to apply that type of knowledge, it makes it very easy to use things like auto layout. But what I can do is I can adjust the spacing. So let's say since we're working in factors of 8, Daniel.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we can do things like 32, and you can see that it automatically distributes the spacing for me really easily. And then if I want to adjust the padding within anything, I can click on this or go click on this as well and just like add any padding that I want. So let's say I want like 8 or like 16. I don't want 16. So let's do 0 for now. So I can like group everything really nicely and then also center things. So this will help me like figure out what alignment I want. So do I want everything left aligned to the middle, top aligned to the left hand side, or everything in the middle? This tool is really handy for that as well. And then let's say again, so I have everything in a group now. I'm going to hit command and select the text layer I want. And I'm just like, this text doesn't match this style. And I can see that this style is using headline 5. So I'm going to select my text and I can see that right now I see all the default text things, but this is like for if you want like brainless text. What I can do is I can hit these 4 the style button here in text. And I already have a bunch of preset styles from the plugin that we installed earlier from the material design plugin. And I can just hit headline 5 and it magically everything looks like perfect right now. And let's say I want to apply that to the continue. So what I can do is I can hold command and click on continue. So what I would want to do here is, I want this to match better. So I will go ahead, do the exact same thing and click on button as well. And that there, like all of a sudden, like everything's very consistent. And I can do the exact same thing for this screen too. So repeat that exact same process for the screens, but again, it's probably like easier to probably have those set up earlier, just because it's a very manual process of me going through, grouping everything again, and making sure that everything's like grouped properly. But yeah, I guess I'll just want to repeat this process when you're making a state, or what you can do is you can scrap your original and just duplicate it. So what I'm doing is I'm holding Alt and dragging as well to easily duplicate this, and you can do this for any part of your Figma file. So it doesn't just have to be like this. It'll like literally duplicate it, so that will be a lifesaver. And let's say, okay, I want the same stroke as before. So I'll do the select, use the stroke here, apply the stroke. And I think, Daniel, you had like a 3 thickness.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then, is this the right color?
No, it's the deselected state. It's the deselected one.
Okay, so I will copy his color over and just apply it there. I'll do the same thing here. So here I can see that they're using a color library. So it's 01 primary 600. So I'm gonna click on my button here. Wait, why is it? How do I not disable it?
You hit the unlink button. Yeah, on the right.
Here?
Yep. That'll take it outside of the design system.
How do I not disable?
Oh, it's because the opacity is set to 50%.
We're
Here, let me grab it. Also,
okay.
another cool thing I think we can show is kind of like how auto layout can work in conjunction with like text and like button. Like if you make a button, then you can kind of like make it wrap to the text size.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you want to make a new, here, just delete that button and make a new one showing like how to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll ungroup this, delete this button. But what I can do is, what are the specs for this? 329 and 70. So I'm just going to create a rectangle and just put 329.70 here. And then what are the other specs? So it is 8 for roundedness. So I'll go ahead and do that and go ahead and choose like the color. So it looks like is it this one?
No, I think it's like one up.
One up.
Yeah.
Oh, 600. Yeah, okay, it looks like this one.
Yeah.
And then I can go ahead and also like select this, Command C and Command V and copy it. So now I'm going to group these two together. And again, I can go ahead and hit auto layout and it'll like do everything for me. So I don't have to think. So here I'm just gonna center everything and make sure everything's centered, and it does like all the padding for me, which is really, really nice. And then I'm gonna go ahead and group this again. And now you can see that these kind of look the same, except for the images, of course, but that's how you would want to be like working more organized within Figma as well.
Yeah, so I think we're out of time now, Christina.
Okay.
So I want to thank you guys all for watching, and I hope it was helpful for like learning how to use Figma.
Mm-hmm. And Thano.
Thank you so much, Christina and Thano. Amazing.
Yeah, no worries. And then we're gonna have office hours. So if you, I know it's very hard to follow, like especially a new tool in like a short span of time. So if you have any questions, like even if you think they're stupid, like they're not, like just feel free to like ask us. Or just DM us on the Discord. Yeah.
Like Thano and I were complaining about transitioning from Sketch to Figma for a very long time. So it's not just you. We have to learn how to use this app too. And we also have 2 amazing like other designers joining us too for office hours. So yeah.
Yeah. Make sure to if you have any questions, ask Peter.
Yes, everybody, yeah. Go to Discord right away and you will see your office hour voice channels with a mentor for each industry, and we'll all see you there.